Can everybody hear me out there? Are we good to go? Let's check in the live stream. What do we got in the chat? Give me a thumbs up. Hopefully. Give me a thumbs up. Are we good? Anybody? Yes. Okay, here we go. Take two. Thanks for being here, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Appreciate all of that. Lemansky, thank you for that. We'll get to it. And for the 2 or 3 super chats we got last show, I will go back and make good on those, and we will credit those to your account. Thank you. All right. This is the Big Ten prediction show right here, the voice of college football. Yes. And it actually works better when people can hear me. And we've got the set designer here that is reorganized the shelving. Bam, we're ready to go. Big Ten predictions. Okay, so if I could just replay everything that I said for 15 minutes, but don't think that I can. I am amazed by the hype surrounding this conference, but of course, in particular, 2 teams and then the rivalry between the 2 that wages each and every day, even when it's May, even when it's the 4th of July. And I was explaining that I posted something a few hours ago on Twitter. This was in response to what I believe to be a Michigan fan. He didn't identify himself. I couldn't see based on his profile that he was a Michigan fan. But he was stating that in his experience that all Ohio State fans just brag about the last 23 years. That's all they brag about. They think college football started in the year 2000. And maybe according to him and the people that he's run across, maybe that's the case. I will make this statement. So I will be more brief than 12 minutes with my soliloquy on Ohio State, Michigan, and trolling and the internet and social media and fan bases. All fan bases are the same. That's my experience. There's smart fans, there's stupid fans, there's ignorant fans, there's delusional fans, there's morons, there's clowns, there's idiots, there's classy people, there are great people, mostly great. And that is my experience with every fan base. You will never hear me say, this fan base is blank. This fan base is blank. I will say part of that fan base is blank, and part of it is all these other things. That's my experience. All right, we'll get to our Big Ten predictions, but I also wanted to highlight this because, hey, people are into trolling and hype and clickbait stuff and all of that business. So I posted this just a couple hours ago on Twitter. And again, this was in response to somebody hitting me with Ohio State fans live in the past, or they live in the, actually, it was an odd criticism because it was that Ohio State fans actually live in the present, I guess, that they live in the present. I've never heard that criticism of a fan base, that they live in the present. And therefore, this is what it produced. It produced me clarifying things because, hey, let's talk Ohio State, Michigan every day, all day, all the time, because it's good for me. It's good for business. It's good for the discussion. It's fun. It's whatever. Okay. We could extend that to other fan bases. Of course, please, let's do that. But let's keep it going. I've got no issue with it, but it really is pretty simple. It's pretty simple. When you take all the numbers and all the accomplishments and all the championships and all the awards and everything, and you throw them all together, it's really, really close. But just like any other rivalry or comparison, there's been an ebb and flow to it. And the ebb and flow is basically that for all of you 3-year-olds in the chat, Michigan has dominated this series. For all you 3-year-olds in the chat, for all of you 100-year-olds in the chat, Michigan probably has an edge in the series at that point. Yes, Michigan, if you're over 100. If you're between 3 and 100, then it's Ohio State. Not just in the series. I'm not just talking about the series. I'm talking about everything involving the 2 programs' accomplishments. And that really can't be debated. And as I offered up to everyone here, if somebody would like to debate me on that topic, I'm certainly open to that and all college football debates. And this has garnered a lot of attention for my little Twitter account that only has 5,000 followers, 822 likes, 140 retweets. Wow. Okay. People got fired up about that, either good or bad. So we can talk about that. We can talk about anything concerning Big Ten football. And of course, I will unveil my predictions here soon. Todd says a little bit of trolling from me. No, I was responding to trolling. Somebody else started this. Somebody else jumped on this first. I was just responding. Somebody at me, at MarkRogersTV, Ohio State fans are this, and that. And as I named a few weeks or months ago, I was on a roll in naming the dumb fan base of the day. Ohio State won that in a particular day. Now, are they a dumber fan base than any other fan base? No, but on that particular day, I encountered a lot of dumb Ohio State fans because, of course, there's a either an event in the news or a storyline or a narrative that's being discussed that particular day that brings out the worst in a particular fan base. This happens all the time. And on this given day, it was Ohio State. Another day, it was, I think, Michigan. I think Michigan fans have won the dumb fan base of the day at some point. Florida State, Miami, and others. All right, before we get to the big predictions, we will get to our first call because we've got our old buddy Michael Hogue in the chat today. Michael, what's going on today? Hello, Michael. Hello, Michael. Hello, Michael. Can you hear me? All right. Going once, going twice.
Have a good one.
All right. Michael is, I don't know what he's doing. All right. So we'll keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate Jason monitoring this chat. That's always a tough deal there. All right. Do we get right to the predictions? Anybody going to call the show? Okay. Here we go. Boy, these predictions are going to cause a bit of a stir, but here we go. Of course, in any direction they are, because they're going to have to be explained. And like the predictions, if you joined us for any of the other conference predictions, see, in the Pac-12, that was clear cut. We had a championship game in the Pac-12, clear cut. So check out our Pac-12 predictions. Then in the Big 12, we've got a tie for second place among 3 teams. So now I've got to go back and figure out who would win that tiebreaker. I've made it awfully tough on myself. I don't know why I did that. I did it because I just laid out the predictions the way I thought it was going to go. And as soon as you see some of these obvious choices, so of course you're going to be able to add up non-conference losses and be able to put things together and say, well, that means so-and-so lost to so-and-so, and I'm going to get, beat over the head for that. Well, understand that, number one, my prediction may change between now and when the game's played if things change. And then also, of course, this could go any such way. This could go any such way. I would not be surprised with 3 teams winning this conference. I would be surprised if anybody else in the conference won. Penn State wins this conference. I'm not going to be surprised. I give them a fairly low percentage chance of winning the conference, but I think they're right there. And certainly I believe that Michigan is the favorite and should be the favorite to win the conference. And I believe Ohio State's the most talented team. And who in the world would be surprised if Ohio State won the Big Ten? After that, somebody told me today that Iowa or Wisconsin or Illinois or Maryland or anybody else won the Big Ten. I would be actually excited about that. I would be excited if somebody could tell me right this second, Illinois won the Big Ten title this year. I'd say, let's roll the games. Let's go. I want to watch this. I want to watch this play out. This will be fun. So Illinois, I'm rooting for you. Okay, here we go. Uh-oh, video file. Where is it? There it is. Bam. And so let me run down where I think this stacks up. Well, got Ohio State, quarterback issues or quarterback questions, not issues, quarterback questions that we've seen a million times at Ohio State, and they always work themselves out, don't they? So is it going to be Kyle McCord or Devin Brown? We actually have a conversation coming up on Monday with Zach Smith. And so we'll talk some quarterback play at Ohio State with Zach Smith on Monday. Be looking out for that notification. All right, there you see Ohio State, Michigan with one loss in the Big Ten. Penn State at 7-2. Now, the more I delve into Penn State, the more I really like their chances to win this conference. They are loaded on defense. They really are. A lot of people think that they have the best defensive line in the Big Ten, including Phil Steele, including Dave Wanstead, the best defensive line in the Big Ten, and maybe the best in the country. You also have, of course, Danny Dennis Sutton is an emerging star along that defensive front, and Chop Robinson as well. Yes, they just have a tremendous defense. And Manny Diaz, say what you will about him as a head coach, but Manny Diaz as a defensive coordinator knows what he's doing, and he's cutting those guys loose. And that's a good thing when you've got guys like Abdul Carter, linebacker. Curtis Jacobs is an exceptional player. At cornerback, Kalen King's about as good as they go as well. This Penn State crew, Drew Aller, of course, it all rides on him on the offensive side. I'm not real sold on the wide receiver play at Penn State. It's been better in the past. They're at Penn State with, guys like Parker Washington and Jahan Dotson. I don't know with Malik McClain coming in from Florida State, where he didn't really show himself to be much special. Dante Cephas was an all-MAC player at Kent State. And Keandre Lambert-Smith is a good player, but I think maybe Penn State's not quite at Penn State level on the outside or at tight end with Theo Johnson. Now, the two monsters at running back, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, I'm starting to talk myself into picking Penn State to win this conference, but I've already got it down there on the graphic between Ohio State and Michigan. Michigan is the cornerback position that I'm really looking at past Will Johnson. Amarian Walker is a freak athlete, but they've got to find multiple corners that can match up against passing teams, i.e. the team they play at the end of the season, like Josh Wallace, or like, Josh Wallace, the incoming quarterback from UMass, Jaden McBurrows as well. And again, I'll get back to Ohio State with Jim Knowles, the man of the hour, the man of the season, probably the most important coach this season in the Big Ten is Jim Knowles. What does he have? How can he adjust the defense to fit the personnel better and fit the game situation? You probably are hearing this for the first time, and you'll hear it right here at the Voice of College Football that the Ohio State wide receivers are unbelievable. That's kind of a secret, but I'm going to let you know that right now. And to the extent that Carnell Tate, the incoming true freshman, is probably the best wide receiver in the Big Ten that's not in Columbus. He's probably better than everybody else. Ohio State probably is the four best wide receivers in the Big Ten. All right, but offensive line, that's the question. Offensive line and at the tackle positions in particular, and not just the quality of the offensive line and the five that will be the starters, but as we've discussed on our Buckeye show, depth issues. Maryland. What do you think of Maryland? Talia Tagovailoa, Roman Hemby, 1,000-yard back, 10 touchdowns last year. Jayshon Jones come back after Raheem Jarrett goes off to the NFL. Tight end is a good position, even though they had C.J. Dupre move on to Alabama. Corey Dykes caught 39 balls last year. Jayshon Jones, 44. The offensive line is not experienced there with Maryland. Not experienced. 31 starts coming back for the Terps. That is not a good number. And so here's my issue with the Terps. Even though I think that they are a program overall on the rise, the defensive line lost its 4 best players, basically, and the offensive line only has 31 starts coming back in Maryland. Bo Braid and Dante Trader, really good safeties for Maryland. They combined for almost 150 tackles. Michigan State, I had them at bowl eligibility, and then I backed off. I did a little bit more research this afternoon, and I backed off. I looked at the schedule, and I backed off. They've got Trey Mosley coming back at wide receiver, but man, they lose a lot of big plays on offense with Peyton Thorne, Keon Coleman, Jaden Reed. Jalen Berger's gone. Tunmise Edelele, who was a pretty highly rated defensive lineman coming out of high school. And Michigan State brings back 10 defensive linemen with experience. Middle linebacker Cal Halliday is a player, 120 stops. And they've got 7 starters back on defense. Corey Wyndham missed almost the entire season last year due to injury, and he's back. Indiana, okay, quarterbacks, obviously a situation where Dexter Williams gained the job late last season from Connor Baselick, and then he tore up his knee against Purdue and still hasn't made it back. Taven Jackson is the guy, and will start the opener against Ohio State for the Hoosiers. Brock Lowry is also an option there. Jalen Lucas is one of the most exciting players in the Big Ten, and he really came on at the end of last year, gained 100 yards against Purdue. Cam Camper, tight end, 46 catches. Aaron Casey leads the defense with 86 stops. All right. We will wrap up the rest of the Big Ten Eastern Division analysis and then take our first call. But first, we look at Rutgers. And there you saw the Scarlet Knights at 2-7 in the Big Ten, 4 wins overall. Gavin Wimsatt, not an accomplished quarterback, but an experienced quarterback, and expect him to be better. 3 offensive linemen back with 101 starts for Rutgers, and they brought in New York Giants offensive line coach Pat Flaherty to coach the offensive line, so that may work for Rutgers. Linebacker Deion Jennings coming back, 91 tackles. Tyreen Powell as well with 71. So that's a little bit of a look at the Big Ten Eastern Division in regards to personnel. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We've got, let's see, a caller named Corey on the line.
How dare you? I see what you did there, and I didn't even hear your breakdown of the West. I see what you did there, conveniently making Iowa and Wisconsin tied at 9-3 and 6-3 overall.
I'll have to make a decision.
I'm guessing you explained the reason you have Wisconsin listed first is because you've got them as your division winners because they beat Iowa in the head-to-head, correct?
I have yet to explain that. But,
okay, well, explain it. This is your opportunity.
Well, I've not made the decision yet, but I guess I can make it right now. No, I've not yet made that decision. I'm going to save that for another show.
Well, then why didn't you list Iowa? Listen, alphabetically, I becomes before W. Did you know that?
Yeah, I didn't get the guidelines to my graphics person in time. Did not reach them. So
I believe they call that a Freudian slip.
Yeah, when you're throwing shows together like I do, who knows what's going to come first or second or third or what order. I barely made it here today, so I'm glad I'm just here at this point and somebody's listening to me.
With all joking aside, I think your predictions are pretty darn good. I have not come out with I did come out with a prediction on my podcast here earlier this week for Iowa, and I've got Iowa at 10-2, so obviously not far off from yours at 9-3. The one thing that I will say, and I have not, again, looked at the West, and I'm going to be coming out with my West and East predictions here this weekend. The one thing that I would disagree with based on your West predictions without looking at everyone else's schedule, but having looked at Illinois, is I think you've got you're a little bit. I know you've been higher on Illinois now than you were maybe 2 months ago.
Yes.
I don't know that that's reflected in your predictions here. If you look at their schedule, 7-5, they've got a very favorable schedule. So we talk about Iowa and Wisconsin having favorable schedules. So does Illinois. If Illinois finishes less than 8-4, I'll be surprised. I think right now, based on scheduling quirks and advantages alone, I think Wisconsin, Iowa, 1A, 1B. But I think Illinois is the clear number 3, excuse me. I don't know that they're as far back as maybe your preseason projections have them. They get Penn State. They get Penn State earlier than Iowa does, which I've talked about the advantage there. They get them at home, right?
Yep.
They do have to go to Maryland. Not an easy game, but certainly not Ohio State or Michigan. And they get Indiana at home. That's your crossover schedule. And they get Wisconsin at home. They go to Ross-Ade. I don't know. If I'm an Illini fan, I'm feeling pretty darn good. If Luke Altmaier is the athlete that we expect him to be, I think they can cause some problems with that schedule.
Okay, let's say this, that if I'm predicting Illinois as I am at 5-4, these are the games that they could lose. Penn State,
Yep.
Nebraska, Maryland, Wisconsin, that's 4, Minnesota's 5, and then Iowa would make 6.
So okay. So I'll be quite honest. Like, again, when we play this game of what's a winnable versus what's a lose, possible loss in the schedule, obviously
Yes.
That's so subjective. But is that game against that game against Nebraska is in Champaign. So you would say that
you were going to bring that one up.
Well, I'm just saying, like, you got Nebraska. Do you have them at 6-6? You have them bowl eligible?
I do.
Okay, so you're probably a little higher on Nebraska than I am, and so I don't see that. Like, that game is a game that Illinois should win at home.
They should. Absolutely.
So it's kind of like Iowa playing host to Michigan State. Like, I could see Michigan State challenging them, but they should win that game.
I don't compare those games.
Why?
I think Nebraska's got a much better shot of winning against Illinois than Michigan State does against Iowa. And I will say this, how many games are played in the conference per year? That would be 9 times 7, 63. 63 games. Don't you think that there are going to be 15 to 18 games that if we could see the final results right this second, we would be surprised?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
right.
fair. And that applies to a lot of these teams that are not the Georgias, Ohio States, Michigans of the world. I get that. Could Iowa lose to, Michigan State? Yeah, it's possible. But I guess, again, this is just the difference between how you and I are looking at these teams' schedules, because I look at Iowa and I've been very bullish on the stance that I think that the floor for Iowa is 8-4, even though, you could find a way to get them at 6-6. They've had years where they've lost to Northwestern. They've had years where they lost to Nebraska last year.
And for anybody that's just listened to you recently and not going back to last football season, you are absolutely an Iowa fan, but you are not an Iowa homer by any stretch of the imagination. So you certainly believe in that 10-2 record. And of course,
Yes.
if I've got them 9-3, I certainly believe they could go 10-2. I don't think there's a game on the schedule they cannot win. I think going to Penn State is going to be, of course, difficult, and I give them maybe a 25% chance of winning that game. But beyond that, they're close to they may be the favorite in every other game this season.
I don't know that they're going to be favored at Wisconsin, but I think that's going to be a hard one to win the Sharks at. But I agree with you. I think there are always going to be those games, and probably for these middling teams. History serves us correctly. Iowa typically has a game where they lose to someone they shouldn't lose to. But typically, again, if history serves us, typically at least when Iowa's offense is decent, they have a game, where they shouldn't win, and they do win. Think back to 2016 against Michigan, a week after they got their butts kicked by Penn State on the road. They come back home and beat a top 5 Michigan team. That seems to happen. Seems to have happened more often than not, at least with good to great Iowa teams. So, and you got Wisconsin's schedule up there. As far as the conference is concerned, theirs is probably the easiest. I mean, because their 3 crossovers are Indiana, Rutgers, and Ohio State. So that would be my only hesitancy with Illinois. I do think that Maryland game is going to be really difficult. And I believe we just looked at it, but isn't that at Maryland? Doesn't Illinois go to Maryland?
Oh, Illinois at Maryland. Yes, they do.
Yeah, so that's going to be a hard game to win. Don't get me wrong. So, yeah, I haven't come out with my predictions yet, but I just figured I'd weigh in real quick. I think, obviously you do your homework and you know what you're talking about. So I'll be anxious to see how many teams by the time one thing I came to, at least with Iowa's schedule, is we ought to be in another month of November where the Big Ten West is very much still up in the air. And I know that's kind of stating the obvious because it's basically you have 2 months of conference games. But like in the past couple of years, the Big Ten West title has come down to the last game, the last week, right? Iowa would have clinched last year with a win against Nebraska. The year before that, Iowa won the West because Minnesota beat Wisconsin. I think that's going to happen again based on how these schedules are made up.
I came up with an iteration of this, my initial prediction. So I only scratched these out one time. So the final was just the second draft. The first draft had Wisconsin at 10-2 and winning the West outright.
What made you change your mind?
I just think that there is a number of teams in the West that are capable. I don't believe that they're as good, but when you I just think that that they're going to get off to a slow start.
Yeah, I agree.
That doesn't mean they're just going to rack up loss after loss, but
I agree.
I think when you throw a new coach and 2 new coordinators and a new quarterback and all of that together,
I'll tell you the 2 games that I think will determine who wins this division. And you could argue it should be the Iowa-Wisconsin game, but I think if you're an Iowa and non-Iowa game that will determine who represents the West. Obviously, the last game up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Wisconsin. But there's a game is it late September between – well, no, you got it on the is this Wisconsin schedule that we're looking at here?
Yes.
I think that Illinois game is going to say a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Purdue game says a lot. Late September on the road. I don't know if the hype around Hudson Card is as real as it seems. Heard some really good things out of camp from him. Those 2 road games, if you're a Wisconsin fan, those are interesting. And they're both, well, I mean, Illinois is kind of smack dab in the middle of the season, but I think you're right. I think if you're an Iowa fan, you're hoping Wisconsin takes a loss, takes a blow or 2 within the first half of the season. Because the second half of the season, minus Ohio State, is pretty favorable. I mean, the last 3 games at Indiana, Northwestern, and Nebraska. And then what's the last game? What's their final game?
Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota, of course, Minnesota. So, but they got a stretch in there, and Iowa has a similar stretch. Yeah, they get that game on the road. But I mean, they should not by any means lose at Indiana, home against Wisconsin, or home against Northwestern, home against Nebraska. I mean, those are 3. I wouldn't say automatic. Nothing's an automatic win, but they should be wins.
But that stretch there, where they invite Iowa to Camp Randall, then go to Illinois, then Ohio State, those 3 consecutive weeks. Wow, yeah. That's going to be telling.
Yeah, and my only hesitancy with this Iowa schedule is just that Iowa has to go to Camp Randall. And regardless of what type of a Wisconsin team this is, going there is so difficult. And Iowa has won there few and far, but I mean, the last time they won there was in 15 off of I want to say a fluke, but a freak goal line fumble from Joel Stabby. like that was one of the weirdest games I'd ever seen. Iowa, of course, went 12-0 that year. But you go back and what? You remember that game, Mark? You're like You're like a photographic memory.
I
Remember
don't.
that?
If I went back and zipped through it, I'm sure it would bring back some memories because I'm sure I watched it, but I don't remember that game.
Yeah, I believe Joel Stave's center or his left guard stepped on his foot as Stave was coming out from under center. Stepped on Stave's foot. Stave fumbles the ball, and Iowa recovers at like their own 2-yard line. Like that's what Iowa did in 2015. They just consistently got the drops, the breaks, whatever, the bounces.
Did you predict where the losses are coming for Iowa?
I did.
You went game by game. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no surprises for me. I've got them losing at Wisconsin, at Penn State. But I did say this. I think the Michigan State game, I know you're not high on Michigan State, and I'm not high on them, but I think the timing of the Michigan State game is unique. The last time Iowa played Michigan State, they killed them. And that was in Mel Tucker's first year. That was in a fanless Kinnick Stadium. That was Rocco Lombardi. And I mean, it was a miserable day for him. I just have a feeling that coming off that trip out east for a whiteout against Penn State, that Michigan State game could be very dangerous. And I've got Iowa's chances of beating Penn State on the road very similar to where I have Iowa's chances of beating Wisconsin on the road. I think both those games, I like the timing of the Penn State game a lot more than I like the timing of Wisconsin. And that's my big concern with playing Wisconsin on the road is, you get them in mid-October. I'd much rather get them in late September.
I look at the personnel of this conference on a fairly regular basis, so we could have done this at any point, but I did kind of run through these teams, over the last couple hours again, and I got to say that Penn State is loaded. They are loaded with talent, and I would not be surprised if they win this conference, and I almost picked them to do so.
We keep saying that. I have yet to see James Franklin fulfill expectations, Mark. So
he won a Big Ten championship and went to the Rose Bowl in 2016. He's won 3 New Year's 6 bowl games.
Okay, well, first of all, they finished.
Those are pretty good seasons.
They finished 3rd in the East last year. Okay.
Yeah. They finished against maybe the 2nd and 3rd best teams in the country.
Okay, I understand, but what I'm saying is the expectations with Penn State this year is to compete for a playoff spot.
Sure.
And that's kind of the bar that's been set there. And moving forward, I think we both agree that once this playoff is expanded, they'll have a much better chance. And they are maybe the biggest winners, and not to shift this to realignment, they are maybe the biggest winners in all of college football.
Oh.
For the changes we're going to see in the next year.
I am on record as have said that same thing. Yeah.
I mean, you talk about just not having to play in that division, having an expanded playoff. So anyways, what were we talking about again?
Well, we were talking about Iowa and Wisconsin, but then it shifted to Penn State.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, like I said, new quarterback, that's my biggest question mark with a lot of these teams. I mean, you think about how much the quarterback position has changed in this conference. Isn't it crazy? I mean, you've got a couple of stable situations at Michigan and Maryland, but Ohio State, Penn State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois. I mean, it's just crazy when you think about it. It's the most important position on the field, and that's why I view some of these teams that we just assume are going to get it done based on roster strength. I'm still skeptical because of the most important position on the field. And yes, I get that Penn State's got a 5-star kid, but I don't know. I got to see it first, I guess.
Well, what's kind of to add to that thought is that all the transfer additions in the West, which we're talking about 6 of 7 teams in the West have transfer quarterbacks, that they're all proven. They're all experienced and proven. The 2 possible best teams, okay, Michigan fans, I said possible, best teams in the conference have quarterbacks who are highly touted, both 5 stars, but they're the guys that are the new quarterbacks who are not proven. So when you mention all those new quarterbacks in the West, they've all proven to be capable, except Illinois' quarterback.
Well, he's done decent things, right?
He hasn't played.
Well, didn't he play as a receiver?
No, I think you're thinking of the UCF quarterback who played at Ole Miss, who was a receiver.
Oh, that's right. Who am I thinking of?
John Rice Plumlee.
Rice Plumlee.
You like that?
There's my confusion.
But Luke Altmaier hasn't played, but highly touted at Ole Miss.
And so Northwestern's the only quarterback position that's stable?
No, Minnesota.
That's not. What are you talking about? I mean, Cal McManus didn't. Okay, he finished the year, but
my statement was that Minnesota is starting the only non-transfer quarterback in the division.
Yeah, but so you could argue that all the quarterbacks are kind of fresh. I mean, that's it. When's the last time we've ever said that or been able to say that?
I got to think never.
Oh yeah,
7. Yeah, that's the transfer portal.
Yeah. All right, Mark. I'll let you get to other callers, but I figured I'd just weigh in because I saw you were live, and I'll get my predictions out there, and then we'll talk about them Tuesday, and we've got some good stuff planned. So
that sounds good.
Enjoy some football tomorrow.
All right, Corey. You too.
Thanks.
See you. Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We get together every Tuesday over on the Iowa channel, so check it out. Corey and I have a good time, and so does everyone, I believe. We get some good feedback on the Tuesday Iowa Hawkeyes live show. Again, every Tuesday, 5:30 Eastern, 4:30 where it counts in the Great Midwest. And also keep in mind that that Iowa Hawkeye show that we do every Tuesday with Corey is available on Corey's audio platforms from the Hawkeye of the Storm. So if you just want to hear the audio, it's a good listen. Put it in, work out, take the dog for a walk, do whatever you do. All right, we will keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. We will give Michael Hogue another shot here. Michael. Hello, Michael. Okay. And on to Go Blue.
Hey, man, you did it again, man.
I did it again. What did I do again?
You said Go Blue.
I did. I tend to say people's names. So,
hey, it's all good.
That's fine. There. Sure. Yay.
It's all good. It's
go
all
blue,
good.
Go blue, go blue. First, not mean anything now.
Yes. No, you're good. So yeah, man. So do you have Ohio State losing to Notre Dame on that?
You know what? I thought, what the heck? Yes, I do have Ohio State going to South Bend, losing to Notre Dame. Does that mean Notre Dame's better than Ohio State? No. But, yes, I've got fourth week of the season. Yeah, I've got Ohio State going out, losing to Notre Dame. I never thought I would make that call, but I did.
Hey, man, I'm with you on Penn State, man. That team, I don't know. They're giving me a vibe, or that roster. They can sneak up on the whole college football scene. And I don't think enough people are talking about that.
If you look what most people have them ranked, people that I respect, they have them with a top 3 or 4 defensive line, a top 3 or 4 linebacking core, and a top 3 or 4 secondary in the country.
Yeah, man. Look, that team. I'm almost more worried about Penn State, going to Penn State than playing Ohio State at home this year. And that's crazy. As crazy as that may sound, I'm looking at that roster. If the QB ends up, living up to his potential, rating as a recruit, that's going to be a tough game for Michigan, man. I think that might be a tougher game than the Ohio State game at home. And I'm just being honest.
It could be. Sure, it could be. Yeah, it's tough to pick.
So yeah,
but Michigan's the surest pick. There's no doubt. Michigan is the surest pick.
Yeah, look, not to sound biased, man. I got Ohio State going 9-3. I know that's gonna sound biased, but I have them losing to ND, Penn State, and Michigan. I think Ohio State. Is going to be better than Michigan the next couple years for sure. I just think Michigan's going to go through a rebuilding process once they lose all all these players they have this year, and the recruiting hasn't really kind of, risen to the levels I feel like it should have after going to back-to-back playoffs. So I think they might have a year or two of rebuild. I just don't like it. How do you feel about the recruiting Michigan had, considering the recent success they've had in the playoffs?
Well, I think the recruiting in Michigan is pretty much at Jim Harbaugh's best standard. It's the best run that he's had. But we've seen, and I kind of warned Michigan fans as we went through the recruiting cycle, and they were all giddy, a lot of them, about being ranked first or second in the country, but they weren't getting the level of recruit that was going to, it was coming in volumes, was keeping their recruiting ranking up there. But they're recruiting better and making more inroads in Ohio with a few players, key players. Before this season, they had never signed a player ranked higher than 11th in the state of Ohio, and they've got a few this year. So
that's true. That is true, but I look at this class and I feel it's more of a bloated class. I know we got some good players in it. Don't get me wrong, but I look at the class and I just feel the ranking is more from the fact it's got 20-some recruits, 27 I think recruits, versus just like Ohio State's like quality over quantity. That's usually how they've always been.
Yes.
And I don't know. I just feel like, considering the success, I would have liked this. Like, Clemson, for example, had that kind of jump when they started having success in the playoffs, or even making the playoffs. They had a noticeable jump in recruiting, and I don't know. Michigan really hasn't had that. If anything, it's felt like the recruiting in terms of, I guess, rankings hasn't been quite as good as the first 3 or 4 years under Harbaugh.
No,
I feel like some of those recruiting classes were better in terms of like just higher quality. Some of them were just higher quality players. Now, of course, you had the JJ and the Donovan Edwards, but to me, that's more of outliers in terms of. And then you had, I guess, Will Johnson. But I think overall, you had that Rashawn Gary class in 2016. I think what year was that?
Are you talking about the rankings being better at the time? You're talking about now that you've been able to assess the classes and see how good they really are?
I think it's more, these classes are more on par with how he started out, if not a little worse, when I feel like it should be better considering the success we've had on the national landscape now. But that's just how I feel. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Jim Harbaugh to the NFL stuff kind of affects it. I don't know, man. There's a lot of factors. I feel like the NCAA circus could be affecting some of it. NIL, of course. There's so many variables now with recruiting, man. I really don't know, but I don't know, man. I'm just a little disappointed about it, but that's just how I feel. Ohio State's killing it. Yeah, I gotta give it to you guys the recruiting, man. You guys never disappoint with that. You guys got what's his name? What's that defensive lineman you got, man? I saw a picture of that dude. That dude looked like he's already in the NFL.
Yeah, it's Houston. Yeah,
it looked like he's already on the NFL line. Well, I'm like, wow.
And that's even more important than grabbing another receiver, as you know. A couple of these defensive linemen they've gotten are huge, and the secondary as well, because the secondary recruiting dropped off a little bit, but not much. But they haven't developed these guys, so to get more 5 stars in the secondary, that's enormous for Ohio State too, because they've got to get so much better in the secondary.
Yeah, this recruiting class you guys are building right now reminds me of, I think it's 20. What year was the JTT class? It had like 6 5-stars in it.
JTT was 21.
Yeah, that class I think had like 5 or 6 5-stars in there.
Yeah, Jack Sawyer was in that class.
A bunch of 5-stars. I think Travion was in that class.
Yeah.
It's looking like that class, but that's the one thing as Michigan fans, y'all be real, we a little envious of that, man. We a little envious, can't deny it.
Hey, if you keep winning the games in November, it doesn't matter.
Hey, I'll tell you what, man. I don't think we're gonna win it next. I'm just being real, because I feel like next year is a rebuild year. I just don't see it. Like, we got to replace so much, and you guys lose some too, but
Oh,
I feel like
Ohio
you guys,
State loses a ton this year. Ohio State's
yeah, but
going to have a ridiculous draft class this year.
that's true. But I feel like you guys have recruited and better to reload versus rebuild. I feel like we haven't. I feel like we're going to be in more of a rebuild versus a reload. Now, that's just how I'm looking at it. So I would definitely give Ohio State the edge next
Well,
year.
2024 is going to be extremely interesting with obviously the new teams in the Big Ten and Ohio State and Michigan maybe taking a little bit of a step back. Not that they're not going to be at the top of the league, but it could be a pretty wide open conference in 24.
Yeah, you know what I was thinking, man, is the Big Ten's going to get crazy because you're going to have so many high level teams now with Oregon and USC. It could be like the Pac. You know how the Pac-12 is like teams were just knocking each other out of like position all the time. I feel like it could be like that just because it's going to be so jam packed with elite teams. Like it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but
Well, somebody's got to lose the games. So, yeah, we'll see. It's going to be very important how the conference is structured and who goes where, and if they're going to split back into divisions and how they're going to attack that, or if they're just going to, what the schedule structure is going to be, what the decision is on the schedule is going to be huge.
oh yeah. Oh, and by the way, real quick, so tell me that this was the most Jim Harbaugh thing ever, man. Did you see the coaching decisions for the first 3 games?
Oh, they rotate. We had a Michigan guy on our Michigan show last week who suggested that actually, that they go that direction.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. Like I think the second game has 2 head coaches, one for the first half, one for the second half.
What? That I didn't see.
Yeah. So the first half, I think I'm trying to remember who it is. I think Jay Harbaugh, and the second half is Mike Hart.
It would be. Yeah, we'll never know. If they would have had a legitimate 3 games there, you wonder what he would have done.
Yeah. Did you see who the assistant head coach is for the team?
Well, he's bringing in Pops, right?
Yeah, he's bringing in his Pops, man. That's the most Jim Harbaugh move. If you had to pick a move that was Jim Harbaugh-esque, I think that'd be the one. Bringing in his dad.
That's
so isn't that crazy? They're like, okay, we're gonna switch halftime.
Man, I hope somebody can give them a game at least for the first half to kind of just make that a talking point, to rattle some people and make that kind of a buzz that, wow, Michigan's only up 4 at halftime and now they're switching head coaches at halftime. Well, maybe they should, but still that's kind of screwy in a tight game.
No, one last thing before I go. Do you so if JJ leaves after this year, do you think it's going to be weird that he was never a captain?
Yeah. So were there any comments made about that? About why? I didn't see any follow up to that.
Yeah, there was a couple. So they're saying the program and the captains, they're saying that it was only seniors and fifth years that were eligible. And as a Michigan fan, I don't fully agree with this, and only from one standpoint. They've made exceptions before. They have. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson was a junior captain. I get the logic, I guess. You had a lot of players come back that, usually wouldn't come back, and you wanted to, make it so it was only seniors and reward those guys. But at the same time, it's going to be weird looking back if JJ goes to the NFL and he was never eligible to be a captain. I don't know. It just kind of don't sit fully right with me, but that's just me.
It doesn't sit right. I understand your point since there's been exceptions in the past, but if they had a hard and fast rule and they stayed with that rule, then I can respect that. And you know how coaches are about seniors. They love seniors. They want to respect the seniors. They even make, comments in the locker room and in speeches about, we won this one for the seniors. They just love seniors because they want to implement this. You got to stick around the program and pay your dues and lift the weights for 4 years and do everything to show your loyalty to the seniors. So,
look, and I get this year because you had a lot of guys come back that really didn't have to. I mean, you had Barrett. I think he's a 6-year guy. As a linebacker, he was one of the captains. You have the 2 guards that could have gone to the NFL. They're captains. You had Blake Corum, could have gone to the NFL. He's a captain. You had Jenkins. He could have left. He's a captain. So I get it. I just think it's going to be one of those things where you look back and was like, wow, as good as a player JJ was, he wasn't a captain. But, yeah, that's all I got.
All right, man. Good to hear from you.
Have a good one.
Have a good one. All right, folks, we'll keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. You can see my predictions. And again, I made it tough on myself. Why I did this, I don't know, because not only in the Big Ten, but in the ACC, in the Big 12, and the SEC, and all those conferences, I got to go back now, and I got to figure out, because I haven't done the work now to figure out who's going to win these divisions. This one I know. So when we wrap it all up and we give our conference championship game predictions and our playoff predictions, you will find out who wins between Michigan and Ohio State, who won that game. And then also in the West, we got a tie between Wisconsin and Iowa. In the ACC, I got a 3-way tie for second place between Florida State, NC State, and Pitt. I've got a 3-way tie for first place in the Big Ten West, or the SEC Western Division, Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M. And we've got a 3-way tie for second place, I believe, in the Big 12 with Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and Kansas State. How about that? So, yes, we're going to have to do another show, bring it all together. And I do want to go back and see how close I've been on my conference championship picks and playoff picks in the last few years. Ever since we started doing them here, I've been picking these games since 1982. Yeah, LFG, strong call. Definitely strong call. We appreciate that. Mike G's here. Mike G here at the Voice of College Football. Mike, what's going on tonight?
Mike G's here. Mike G here at the Voice of
Hey, Mike, if you can turn me
Yep,
down.
hello, not too much. I just found your show on YouTube just a couple of days ago, and so. Hello, not too much. I just found your show on YouTube.
Hey, Mike, what you want to do is you need to turn that down so you're not listening to the feedback.
Okay, I got it. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. How's it going tonight? Hey, Mike, how you doing? Mike, can you hear us? Hey, if we get a first-time caller here, we need to stay on with this guy. Mike, can you hear us?
Okay, I'm trying, but I can't hear you.
You can't hear me anymore.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm a rookie at this.
Don't worry about it.
But I'm enjoying your show. I'm learning a lot about Big Ten football. And although I'm an SEC fan, I do have much respect for Big Ten football and the power football that it brings to the table. And some of the elite teams in college football, like we know what they are, Ohio State being one of the best, Michigan that's evidently has found their way and they found success here lately. Are you with me?
I gotcha.
Okay, good. So, but I just want to say one thing. I don't want to be a hater, and because I'm not, but I just think Michigan still has a little bit to prove before they're considered an elite team in college football. And I know they're a good team. I know they're a solid team with a solid coach. I'm not saying they're slackers, but I do not think they're number 2, and I do not think they're elite. And the reason I say that is because I've realized the success they've had beating Ohio State. That's not an easy feat to do. 2 years in a row, that is a major accomplishment. But that TCU game last year, that was a horrible loss for them. The reason I say that is because, TCU lost their previous game to Kansas State. They're Big 12 runners-up. Their game after Michigan, they got exposed by Georgia big time. Michigan should have beat them. They should have beat TCU, and they couldn't get it done. That's one reason why I say I don't think they're at the elite level this year, as of now. But will they be at the end of this year? Will they live up to their number 2 billing? I don't know. It's yet to be seen. But I just don't think they're the second best team in the country. Do you think I'm off base?
Mike, can you hear me?
I can, yes, sir.
Okay. This is what I think. I think you are on target. And also understand we've got an SEC channel. So if you go to the link in the description section of any of our videos here, you'll see it right at the top. We've got an SEC channel for you. So we've got a ton of SEC content there as well as here. But when it comes to Michigan, I'll say it this way, and I love the term elite. I don't like the term blue blood. I think that speaks to the past. Elite means that you've reached the top. You don't have to be the number 1 team. It doesn't mean to me that only Georgia's elite right now, but you have to win on a national landscape. And Michigan has not beaten anyone outside the conference. They have not beaten even a good team outside the conference. So until they do that, I'm not going to consider them elite.
Correct. I agree. I really think if they lined up, even with their head coach on the sidelines, tomorrow against Bama or Georgia, and I'm trying to be unbiased here, I don't think Michigan can hang with them 2 teams. But like I say, there's still there's seasons just getting started. Michigan may prove me wrong, but however, I'm rooting for Michigan, not against them 2 teams, of course, but I'm rooting for Michigan. And the reason why, and I mean this with the utmost respect, the Big Ten for lately has kind of been a 1-team conference. You had Ohio State, and then you got everybody else. Ohio State has been an elite team. Before the Georgia game and Ohio State played, I thought there was only 2 teams in the country that can hang with Georgia. Bama being one of them, Ohio State being the other one. Ohio State almost got it done. They were so close, but they quite couldn't get it done. So I think they are an elite team. But like I said, I'm rooting and whether they stay that way, I don't know. But I'm rooting for Michigan. It's because they bring more to the table from the Big Ten. They're traditionally a powerhouse team, so I like the brand. They're one of the biggest brands, and Jim Harbaugh. It's a kind of love him or hate him type coach. I guess I'm really neither way, but I guess I love him more than hate him because I think overall he's a good coach. He tries to do what's right. I don't know what's playing out here lately, but I think for the most part he does what's right in college football. But like I say, the TCU loss, in my opinion, that just left a bad taste in my mouth. Because TCU, in my opinion, is just above average team. And Michigan should have beat them and should have had their chance on the big stage. But a lot of football is going to be played. I think Penn State's a top 10 team, and I do think there are 3 legitimate top 10 teams from the Big Ten. But I don't think Michigan's number 2. But like I said, thank you for having me on. I enjoy your program, and I'm glad I found you. I'll check out that SEC channel, and it's going to be a great season. Definitely be a great season.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you so much for calling. It's always nice to hear from somebody new, and thank you for calling. Call back anytime.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
All right. New caller. That's always good to hear. Here at the Voice of College Football, we love our old standbys, but of course we need some fresh blood in here. We need some new perspective and got to grow the channel. Been hanging around 41,000 subs for a long time, folks. 41,000. I thought we were going to hit like 400,000 by now. So we'll get there. All right. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Let's get to our next caller. We went from Michigan. I don't want to say detractor. He was very fair, I believe, Mike, in his call. Now that we've got another Mike, and of course, this is Michigan Mike with us. Mike, how are you?
Hey, I can't complain, Mark. It's a Friday. How you doing?
I am doing just fine. I will not complain at all myself.
Yeah, I love having me a weekend, especially one with football coming up.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
I'm going to sit on my rear end tomorrow from about 2 o'clock to midnight.
sounds about good to me. I'm going to get all my stuff done early in the morning.
Yep.
Now, I was a little bit late to the party because I had some stuff to do after work. But on your list, you basically, I think I saw it right. You had nobody in the East running their conference schedule.
Nope, it's right there in front of you if you can see the screen right now. Michigan 8-1, Ohio State 8-1, Penn State 7-2, Maryland 5-4, Michigan State 3-6, Indiana and Rutgers 2-7.
So I'm guessing from this, you're basically taking all the home games in the top three, rock, scissors, paper.
Well, no, because Penn State's losing to the top two most likely. And I've got so many ties with all of these conferences is that I've decided we're going to do a final show where I've got to go through all the conference championship games and then announce my playoff.
Oh,
So I
okay.
guess that's, I don't know, going to be a pregame to Notre Dame Navy tomorrow, maybe.
Okay. So both the Penn State's losses are to the teams above them.
Well, yes, I believe so.
Okay, so who does the winner of the game lose to? You have what? Michigan losing to Maryland is.
Yeah, so again, I will answer your questions, even though we're going to do a full wrap-up of all this and explain any ties that I have, and we're going to match up the conferences. This is what I'm looking at. Either one of two things can happen here, so I don't have control over this to bring it back, but Ohio State either loses at Wisconsin and then wins the rest of the games and beats Michigan to win the Big Ten East, and Penn State loses those two games to Ohio State and Michigan, or Penn State can lose to, let's say, a Maryland in addition to Michigan and beat Ohio State, and Ohio State beats Michigan.
Oh, okay. I mean, it was just the top three kind of caught my eye because I figured that it seems like the common consensus, or at least it is to me, is that the top three would be, take your pick of, Michigan or Ohio State winning them all, the other one losing one, and Penn State losing two. I mean, it seems like the most common scenario I've.
Yeah. This is the one of two common scenarios that I keep hearing would either be that Michigan's going to win all their games, and then obviously it's not going to matter what Ohio State and Penn State do because Michigan's going to sweep and go 9-0. Or that they trade wins, and most likely that means Michigan loses at Penn State, beats Ohio State beats Penn State, loses to Michigan, and you got a three-way tie with one loss.
Yeah, the home field rock, scissors,
Yes.
paper that I was mentioning.
Yes. And then you've got a ridiculous tiebreaker that wouldn't really sit well with me.
No, me.
And I don't even know, because it comes down to some crazy like winning percentage among common opponents.
And I guess now is Penn State Maryland, is that in Happy Valley this year?
No, they play in College Park.
Okay, so now I can kind of see where the rock, scissors, paper second loss for Penn State might pop up. Because realistically, that's the only other conference loss I can see, unless you're Scoop John and thinks that Iowa somehow marches into Penn State in a whiteout and wins that game.
Iowa marches into Penn State. Okay, that's a noon game, I believe. Or maybe it's a night game. I shouldn't say.
I think it's
say,
a noon.
remember.
I think it's a noon game, but I won't swear to it.
Yeah, I think that's a noon game. I think that was the first one that was announced this year by Fox. So either, if they're not going to lose to both Ohio State and Michigan, maybe they lose to Maryland on the road, Iowa, and they also have a trip to Illinois.
I'm kind of curious as to what's going to happen with Illinois. I mean, I think Bielema's got him in the right direction, but with no Chase Brown, I mean their offense was pretty bad last year. So without Chase Brown, I don't even know what it's going to go to now.
Yeah, new quarterback who's never played, Luke Altmaier. Isaiah Williams is a really good player. He caught 82 passes last year. Um, yeah, even more so than and I know, yeah, Chase Brown was their offense. He ran for 1,600 yards, and
yeah.
but his brother was actually a higher draft pick at safety, a much higher draft pick, and they lose a lot on defense. But they also have three of the best defensive players in the country still left. I don't know. I don't know how they develop these defensive players, Mike, because their recruiting rankings are always horrible.
I don't know, but I mean, I think, don't they have a D lineman that's projected to be,
yes,
a top 10 pick, not this coming draft, but the following?
Yes, Jerzon Newton.
That's it, Jerzon Newton. So I don't know what they're doing in Champaign, but they seem to be doing it right.
I don't either. That's what I'm saying. They lost last year a Thorpe Award finalist in Devon Witherspoon. They lost Sidney Brown, Chase's brother, at safety. He was actually their highest rated or drafted player besides Witherspoon. Can't think of the other defensive back. Tarbavius, can't think of his name. And then some other tremendous. So there's three top-notch defensive players they lost, and they've got still some excellent players coming back on defense. And I got to think none of them are highly recruited, because I don't see their recruiting rankings or any high 4 and 5 stars coming in there. So they did a heck of a job developing these guys.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember the last time Illinois had a top 30 draft class.
No.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people that thinking that, I mean, I had Illinois kind of taking a step back because, like I said, they lost a lot of pieces. But, there's a lot of people that are putting Illinois still in it because of last year. And it's like, I don't see it happening. I don't see lightning striking twice.
I think they're going to be close, as you see there. One game behind.
You see, the one thing Illinois has got going for them is that they've got Wisconsin figured out now. Now, I don't know if that'll stay with Fickle being there, but
yeah.
I mean, they've had Wisconsin's number for a few years now, and like I said, Bielema looks like he's got to go. But I'm kind of glad for them because they just languished on the Lovie Smith years. Yeah, I mean, it was painful.
Mike, you may want to stick around for a super chat here. You ready for this one?
Hit me.
Okay. Joshua Dillon says, bold prediction. I think by the end of the year, we are going to be asking what happened to this Michigan team that was supposed to be the national champion. How did they go 10-3?
I would challenge him to name the 3 teams we lose to.
Well, if you say 10-3, then you must mean a bowl game. So forget that. You don't even know who they're going to play in a bowl game. So 10-2 is basically what he's saying, I think, unless he's saying 9-3 and they're going to go to some bowl game that he doesn't even know. So that sounds like 10-2 to me. They're going to lose to Penn State and Ohio State. Those are the only conceivable losses. Who else could they? The third loss would be Maryland.
I'd say at Maryland is the only thing I could think of.
Like if you said right now, Michigan's going to lose 2 games and they're not going to be to both Ohio State and Penn State, I would say, okay, they lost at College Park because they have to go there.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the schedule. It's really the only thing because, there's nobody in the West that really can mess with us. I mean, we kind of dodged the big boys of the West. If what you could call big boys.
Yeah. Well, they're big boys in stature. They're just not great football players collectively. The one thing I will say about the West is, and I was trying to explain this to Corey the other day, and I think he finally got it, that I think Iowa's the safest pick. I think that they have the airtight defense, and of course, Ferentz has been there forever and all that, where Wisconsin's got all the turnover. But the biggest threat to the East is Wisconsin because they've got the highest ceiling with potentially the better coach, the far better offensive coordinator, the better offense. I think there's just a higher ceiling at Wisconsin that they would be the only team that could possibly threaten a team from the East.
Oh, I had Wisconsin winning, but I'll say I think I agree with you definitely. I think Wisconsin's the highest ceiling, but I think Iowa has I think Wisconsin has the highest ceiling, but I think Iowa has the highest floor.
Yes.
I mean, I picked Wisconsin 9-3, Iowa 8-4. But the thing is that the lowest I think Iowa could go is 8-4. I don't see them losing 5 games, and if they were going to not go 8-4, they would be 9-3, possibly 10-2.
It's strange that Vegas has Iowa at 7.5.
That seems like free money. I mean,
It does.
the only question mark I had, and that's the reason why I took Wisconsin. Their offensive line is terrible, and they're returning everybody from a terrible offensive line. I think they got one guy coming in from like an FCS school, or it's either a Group of 5 or SCS school. But I'm just like, if that's your hope of kind of patchworking this piecemeal offensive line, you've got a long season coming. And Cade McNamara, he needs a line. I mean, we found that out in Michigan, because I remember whenever we were playing the first games against Colorado State and Hawaii, he was getting sacked against Colorado State and Hawaii because that was back when they were flipping between. I mean, we all knew JJ was going to be the starter, but they were pretending like there was an actual quarterback battle. Now, I don't know if the offensive line kind of, I don't want to say kind of threw him to the wolves, but didn't give the utmost effort. But Cade was sacked a couple times, and if he doesn't have somebody that can protect him, it's going to be a long season for Iowa. The only benefit he has is that he's going to have, I would say, 2 of the top 5 tight ends in the conference. I mean, the only ones I'd put in that same conversation with Allen Lachey is Loveland, Stover, and the Minnesota guy. I cannot remember his name. Please help me.
Devin Spanford.
Thank you, Spanford. Those are probably your top 5 tight ends in the conference, and he'll have 2 of them. Plus he's got Caleb coming in from your old stomping grounds, transferred in, so he has weapons. But can he have a clean pocket? If he has a clean pocket, I think Iowa wins this conference or wins the division. But
he has certain kind of weapons. He doesn't have downfield weapons, and he's not a downfield quarterback, so that's fine. They're just going to have a very limited offense like they typically do.
Well, they don't need that. I mean, I know they've lost, certain pieces, on the defense, but I have a trust in Phil Parker that he's going to keep the defense, worst case scenario, bottom of the top 10. So I mean, if they can get minimal production on the offense, Iowa can win the division. I like what I've seen out of Fickle so far. Granted, at a Group of 5 school, and then the addition of Longo really just opens up all sorts of avenues for Wisconsin's offense, especially considering the fact that a lot of people kind of think of him as this Texas Tech offensive coordinator, just chuck the ball 7,000 yards a season. But there was, I think it was 2021, he had two running backs that both had 1,000 yards rushing. So he can do a balanced offense. And with Braylon there, oh God, there's no telling what Wisconsin can do if all the cylinders run. Yeah, I was mostly just kind of curious as to your top 3 in the East. It's like, I figure it's either 0 losses, 1 loss, 2 loss, or 1 loss, 1 loss, 1 loss. And I was just kind of curious, where's that 4th loss in this coming from?
Well, I've got a lot of tiebreakers to weed through in every conference except the Pac-12. So looks like it's on me to produce a video, and I'll get it out there, or we'll do another live stream. But I think I'm going to produce a video, and I will go through all my conference championship game picks, playoffs, the whole deal.
I can't wait for it. Okay, well, thanks for having me, Mark.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it, man. And
have a good one.
Keep in mind, everybody, look at Mike in his chair with that fine-looking shirt. Nice. I got to get me one of those.
Yes, you do. Get it, everyone. Have a good one.
We appreciate it.
No problem.
Good one. Oh, thank you, Mike. That does my heart good to see Mike there talking some college football. Michigan fan wearing the Voice of College Football shirt. Very nice. Very nice. Got another call coming in here from the Voice of College Football, but first we will reset the page so everyone who's coming in late can see my Big Ten predictions. And again, keep in mind, I've made this hard on myself with a lot of ties, so we are going to have to come back with a full rundown of championship game picks and playoffs as well. All right, welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Defiant. How's it going, Mark?
It's going well. What have you been up to?
Oh, nothing much. Just at work right now, mom break. Listening to your show.
Very cool. We appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, I see that you have Indiana 4-8 this year again, like last year.
I do.
Do you see Tom Allen maybe getting fired after this year?
Yeah, I could see it. Even though Indiana does not have high standards, I do think that he's in a bit of a spot here, and it's strange because he obviously started extremely hot and had some better than Indiana type recruiting classes. And he's in a tough spot, as you well know, this year at the quarterback position, having to play a very inexperienced guy in Taven Jackson.
Definitely. And again, we're a basketball school. We're not a football school, so we don't have a lot of expectations, every year, I was just happy going 6-6, in this first, third year? Well, not before. Before, and we lost to Duke that 1 year.
Yes.
But do you see us beating Rutgers again?
Yeah, so if I went game by game, I'm trying to think what I had here. I would say that Indiana, of course, there's Rutgers, Purdue, and there's Michigan State are the three most likely wins. I'd have to go to their schedule. Let's look at Indiana's schedule. I got it right here. Just take a second. So we've got with Indiana, we've got, of course, the Ohio State opener. And where are the Big Ten wins? I like this matchup against Louisville in Lucas Oil Stadium. I think that's
Sorry
cool.
about that, Mark. Sorry about that. Say anything.
So most likely the win.
I know probably to lose Ohio State. That's going to be a blowout. I can see that being 40-plus points. I don't see it being Ohio State. Louisville might be a tough team to beat too. I don't see us being Louisville. I think Brom's going to have a program in Louisville.
Yeah, I see the wins coming against Indiana State and Akron, of course. I think Louisville's just too good for Indiana.
Yeah,
but it's a winnable game. They've got a game there that probably they've got a 35 to 40% chance of winning. But in terms of the wins in the Big Ten, most likely it's Rutgers. I think they've got a really good shot against Michigan State at home, and then they've got Purdue on the road. Those are the three most likely. Now, if they steal a win somewhere else, that's probably similar to what they did last year when they beat Illinois, is that they go to Memorial Stadium and upset Illinois would be my next selection there. Oh, I believe we lost our caller there, our Indiana fan. Let's see if he's still here. Defiant, you still with us? Hello?
Yeah, sorry about that, Mark. I don't know. It just kicked me out for some reason.
No problem. No
But
problem.
I can see us being Akron. I think Akron's an easy W because they haven't been good in forever. I can see us beating Indiana State because Indiana State's not that good of a program either. But in the Big Ten, I don't know, Mark. I don't know. Maryland might be a win, but I don't know. That program's doing pretty good. Michigan State maybe. They're kind of down a little bit. We do play them at home. We got the returning game against Illinois. I don't think we're going to win that game.
So Defiant, for me, the most likely wins for Indiana are number 1, Rutgers, number 2, Michigan State, number 3, probably at Illinois. Oh, I missed the Purdue game. My bad. Rutgers, Michigan State, at Purdue. I think they're going to win 2 of those 3. And then if they steal another one, it's either Illinois or it's Maryland.
Yeah, I can see us beating Purdue just because, again, first year head coach under the system there. And I don't think they're going to be that good in the West, even though the West is the weakest of the two. Again, I can definitely see us beating Rutgers because Rutgers has been good since 2014, and we kind of had in advancing in that series a little bit. I know they beat us in 2021, but we went 0-9 that year in the conference, so I can't complain about that. Do you see maybe the Michigan Ohio State game or Penn State game, one of those three being closer? Out of those three, do you see us being like in a game with them? Either of the three?
Well, I think most likely the close one is going to be the Ohio State game, actually, because Ohio State's starting a new quarterback. They're shuffling their offensive line. They have 2 new starters at center, actually 3 center in the 2 tackle positions. So I think there's a lot to figure out between the offensive line and the quarterback at Ohio State. And you probably remember 2017, Ohio State went to Bloomington. And of course, they eventually were a top 5 team in the country.
Yeah.
And they struggled and really didn't break free until early fourth quarter. Then they won like 49-21, but it was a close game for most of that way. They also had another close one against Indiana. They had a close one in 2020, of course, with Michael Penix. And then they had another close one in Urban Meyer's tenure, 52-49. An undefeated Ohio State team barely escaped Indiana. So there have been a few there, and their national championship team struggled with Indiana until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I don't know. I think this year is going to be kind of the make or break year for Indiana football. It's sad to see where Tom Allen started. Going 5-7 the first few years, and 8-5, and then 6-2. Like, yes, we finally got a team, and then watching us go from one of the surprising teams of Big Ten East to bottom feeders again, like we always. Again, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say of this program.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for Indiana, and it only gets tougher with 4 other programs coming into the conference that are way above them. So they're going to see less Rutgers, and they might see more Northwestern and maybe some other teams that they can beat.
Definitely. But I want to bring this point up too. I hate to say it though, but do you see eventually maybe the Big Ten and SEC saying we're the best in conference, right? We make the most money out of the Power 4 now, technically.
Yes.
Do you see maybe eventually the Big Ten maybe cutting part ways with teams that can't produce on a football field, like maybe Indiana or Rutgers eventually in the future, and make like the actual like super conferences with teams from like across the country?
I would have told you no up until about 2 years ago, and now I really don't know, because I would hate to see college football come to that point where they're kicking teams out of conferences. Because maybe I overrated the academic stability and the academic connection between these schools is part of it. But a school like, we'll say Ohio State and Michigan, because they're the biggest revenue earners in the conference. When this new contract kicks in and everybody in the Big Ten's making $75 to $85 million per year, actually, if you looked at which schools are actually bringing in that money, Ohio State should be getting paid 3 times that amount of money, and Indiana should be making like, I don't know, $12 or $15 million a year. So if the big boys really wanted to say, hey, why are we distributing money equally to these schools that nobody watches and that aren't pulling their weight? I guess they could come to that.
Well,
it seems to be going in that direction.
I would say this though. I think if the Big Ten, again, I'm going to kind of explain what I was thinking here. The Big Ten would to potentially get rid of a team. I don't think it'd be Northwestern, but again, Northwestern football right now isn't
Oh, we lost Defiant. We'll see if he sticks around. So let me get to the Super Chat contributions. We appreciate them so much. Thank you for all of that. So here we go. We've got Lemansky. Hope you're still here, Lemansky. Appreciate you. Don't give up, Mark. Punting is not winning. Oh, Lemansky, come on. it is in your neck of the woods. Of course it is. If there are any woods in Iowa, there probably aren't. And of course, we did see the bold prediction from Dylan, who says that Michigan's going to go 10-3. And Lemansky comes back with letting us know that that Penn State Iowa game is in fact a night game. And when he says 6:30 on CBS, he means, I believe, 6:30 Central Time. So it's 7:30 local time. So there is going to be a night feel to it. It is going to be a whiteout. It is going to be dark outside. The fans are going to be revved up from knocking down some liquids the entire day. And it is going to be that kind of raucous environment and scene in Happy Valley for the Hawkeyes. And then finally, again, thank you so much, Jim R. Appreciate you. Have one on me, Mark. Thanks for the channel. And thank all of you, because you guys ultimately make the channel. I don't. I need all of you, and you're here for me. So together we are the voice of college football. Defiant's back in here. Defiant, how you doing? You with us?
Really good. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mark. Sorry about this.
You're
I
good.
usually call any shows on PC, so it's kind of like easier. But again, yeah, I'm calling you on mobile, so it's kind of hard to kind of like control everything on my phone.
No, you're good.
So as I was saying before, I got cut off. The Big Ten would probably to maybe again kick members. Northwestern's a founding member of the Big Ten, but right now with football and historically with football, they haven't been, that top, program, top 10 program in the, not let alone in the nation, but let alone in the conference. So I think the Big Ten would potentially, again, maybe kick a member, would be Northwestern, but I don't know about the academic side of all that stuff.
Yeah, the academic ties in the Big Ten, I think, are stronger than they are in the other conferences.
Mm-hmm.
And so, man, if we get to a point where we're kicking out teams, especially long-standing teams, if it's Rutgers, that's one thing. But if it's Northwestern and Indiana, then the sport has gotten to a place where I don't want it to be.
And I don't hope it. I hope nobody kicks out of Power 5 conference. But I think most of the members deserve to be in Power 5 conference. Rutgers joined because TV and all that stuff, so they're in a different bubble. But yeah, if it got to that point again with you, I wouldn't be watching college football anymore. I'd be watching more NFL or some other type of football. Because when you're kicking out members, you're kicking out like history, you're kicking out like prestige, you're kicking out like rivalries in that conference.
And one of the reasons we love college football is everything you just mentioned there: rivalries, pageantry, prestige. There's just a feel to it that the NFL doesn't have. And when you remove that, then you just have a minor league NFL.
Yeah, and again, with the realignment now, I think it's kind of, it started in 2010, but now it's kind of getting to a point now where it's starting to get there with Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Washington joining the Big Ten, because we'll go to play one. We got to play in one of those four schools. Travel out there to Washington, California, play these schools where we don't have no historical ties to them at all. Maybe playing a bowl game, a Rose Bowl, but Indiana has been to Rose Bowl in how many years? So again, it kind of goes like we haven't played them, most of those schools ever. So it's kind of like pointless. But I see why the Big Ten expanded there with the money and all the TV sets they get out there.
My civics teacher, when I was a sophomore in high school, he played on the Indiana Rose Bowl team in 1968, and he talked about that all the time. And at that point, he would say, I'm the last team, the Indiana, that played in the Rose Bowl. And you can imagine that was a long, long time ago that I was a sophomore in high school, but it's still the last Indiana team that has reached the Rose Bowl. It was only about 15 or 16 years at that point, but now it's become 55 years. All right. Defiant One, I believe he's gone. Okay, this is what we're going to do, folks. As you can see from our Big Ten predictions, and if you were here for our especially Big 12 ACC and SEC predictions, I've got some work to do because I got to break some ties. And so we are going to go into the lab There it is, LFG, the Indiana Rose Bowl team, 1967. So I was talking about the 68 Rose Bowl, the 67 team. Yes, the 68 Rose Bowl that lost to USC, I believe 14-3. Yes, it was, oh, shoot. Mr. Paulus. A shout out to Mr. Paulus, my civics teacher in 10th grade, who played guard on that Indiana team that lost to USC in the Rose Bowl. And he hated Ohio State. And he said, we couldn't even beat Ohio State the season we went to the Rose Bowl. We lost to Ohio State that year. And yes, Mr. Paulus, God bless him. He had an Ohio State poster in his room, and he gave it to me the last day of class and said, Mark, take it with you. And it had a picture of Marcus Merrick on it and the Ohio State schedule for 1983, I believe it was. Oh, yes. So once again, folks, appreciate you being here. And here's the deal. If you hate the SEC, love the SEC, whatever, especially if you love the SEC, get on over to our SEC channel. The link is in the description section. The link to Amazon is in the description section. So please, when you do your Amazon shopping, I know it may seem like a pain right now, but if you get used to do it, then you will do it all the time, and it will help us grow and build the channel, and it will be exactly the same situation for you. It will not change in any way your experience with Amazon and shopping on Amazon if you use the link that we provide in the description section of the videos. And while you're at it, we got a Big 12 link there, and we've got a new SEC channel as well. We've got a link there. So please subscribe to those channels. Even if you could care less about the Big 12 and the SEC, please do it for us, the growth of the channel and everything that we do here at the Voice of College Football. And then when we are safely on our way, plus 1,000 subs, then you can unsubscribe. That'll be just fine. All right. I am going to the lab to figure out all these tiebreakers, and we will produce a video or go live. Also, keep in mind that we will have Notre Dame Navy post-game on Saturday, courtesy the two Irish brothers, one of them actually at the game in Dublin. So we're going to have post-game from the Notre Dame Navy game. How about that, across the pond? And then also we will have post-game, of course, with Tim, Tony, and Rick following USC and San Jose State. And if anything strikes me as funny, odd, interesting, or worthy of note, I will certainly produce videos on week 0. And it's been requested of me by somebody out there that I produce so there's 6 games, I believe, on Saturday. So it would be a top 12 that actually makes sense. The Voice of College Football top 12 that actually makes sense. So be looking out for that. Maybe we take our stab at that before we, of course, cut loose. Remember, we've got a 24-hour live stream. We kick off college football Thursday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern time. Okay? Thursday, 5 a.m. Eastern time. We kick off college football together, all of us, with a 24-hour live stream. So we're going to be on live all day Thursday, take you through the ball games that night, Utah, Florida, Nebraska, Minnesota, and then do post-game, and we'll be on until 5 a.m. Friday morning right here at the Voice of College Football. So much to look forward to. My final predictions, conference championship games, and college football playoffs. We are going to preview as many games as we can get to. So be looking out for that. We're going to continue our Big Ten live show on Mondays. We're going to do some kind of, I will do my best to pull together some kind of SEC preview show, maybe the ACC, maybe the Big 12, maybe the Pac-12. We'll do as much as we possibly can leading into Thursday. It's a short week, so we can only do so much. Yes, I'm actually, I attempted in the last couple of days to sit down and figure out, okay, I need to block my time off. I need to make sure certain things get done. Like if you're watching us on YouTube right now, then you know that a ton of you watch shorts. So I should do shorts. I keep telling myself this. I know that it's true. I should do shorts, but I haven't been doing them. So we got to get on that. We got to get on Instagram. We got to do all these things to build the channel. Folks, if you want me to attend a game this year, if you're a USC fan and you want me to come out to Los Angeles, and let's order this the right way. If you want me to come to one of your games and it's cold and you're in the north, let's do those in September. And let's get to the nice places in November. Let's do it that way. But if you want me to come to a game, these are two things we need. We need a destination, okay? Meaning we got to have a place to broadcast from. So that's either going to be at the stadium or it's going to be in some local watering hole. All right, number one. Number two, we need a sponsor. So you can help us with that. And we will visit your team in your stadium this year right here at the Voice of College Football. All right, we appreciate it. We will see you soon. Be looking out for my predictions. And again, we will have Notre Dame, Navy postgame, and USC and San Jose State as well, right here at the Voice of College Football.